Hey, welcome to Engineers Workshop. Usually about this time of year, around Thanksgiving, I do call it a Thanksgiving or post-Thanksgiving shop update. But I've been pretty regular in my videos, and you have seen everything that I've done and I've acquired lately. So there really isn't much new that I can go over with you. So I'm not going to do a Thanksgiving shop update this year. What I will do is introduce another piece of equipment. Been kind of on a buying spree here lately, and the last one that you saw, the abrasive 1.5 surface grinder, still working on that, but I desperately needed another item, and this is not a mill, it's not a lathe, it doesn't remove metal at all, but it is vital to getting this shop enclosed, outfitted with conduit, air piping, you name it. And I bit the bullet and bought something. So here it is. This is a Lift-A-Loft vertical lift. It's an AMR 18. I'll put the model number in the link there, but it will get me up to the top of the building, as you can see, and enable me to run my overhead light conduit and work on my trolley, do whatever I need to do. So let me get down and I will go handheld and I'll show you more features of this really cool lift. This is advertised as a 2-man lift. It's a pretty small basket, but it does have a 500-pound capacity. And it has a 3-stage vertical mast, and then it has the swing-out arm. So it will go directly up and down, and then the swing-out arm gives it about 8 feet of outreach. The footprint is very compact. It's about 6.5 feet long, but only 41 inches wide. So it's really kind of designed for, warehouse use. And you can see that the turret is hardly any wider than the base. So this thing can fit, pretty much within like a 48-inch wide aisleway and be able to turn the turret around, and do what you need to do. It has a full set of controls in the basket, joystick for forward and back, toggle on top for turning the wheels, and the up and down and turning controls are duplicated on the base unit, so you can set it up to do, that's for the upper basket, and that's for the lower controls. And here I have the ability to send the basket up and down. Which is kind of nice, because if I wanted to, I could put essentially a little rack on this and park it outside my building and then send up to 500 pounds of building materials up to the roof line and have my son up on the roof and he can offload materials. I do plan on putting solar panels on this building at some point, and so this thing should be able to handle 3, 4, 5 solar panels at a time, and I'll send them up to the roof from the ground, which is really cool. It is in basically complete operating condition. There are no leaks. Everything functions that I can determine. All the controls do what they're supposed to do. It has an onboard battery charger when it's plugged in. And some of the options that it does have, it sends this power to this outlet in the basket when the switch is on and if you have AC plugged into it. When you turn the switch off, as I just did here, it's automatically turning on the battery charger. And the other thing that it has, which is cool, is compressed air inlet there, and that's an air line with an air outlet right here in the basket. So if you're running air tools, you don't have to drag compressed air lines, you know, up to the basket itself. It does it all within the cable bundle in here. Let's see, some of the options it was made with that it does not have. It was offered with an extendable basket where the basket would have an 18-inch additional slide out, and it was offered with a fold-down step. This is a bit of a step up. If I open this up, that's about a 24-inch step up. But with a little ingenuity, I think I can solve both, kill two birds with one stone. And let me show you what I'm going to do. Planning on doing a modification here fairly quickly. There's enough cable slack in here, and the way this is constructed, this bracket has two, looks like two 2.5-inch square steel tubes, and then 4 equally spaced fasteners holding the actual, you know, and there's 4 more over here, holding the actual basket to the lifting structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts out, and I'm going to shift this basket 1 bolt pattern forward. That's another 7.5 inches. And like I said, there's enough slack in the tube bundle here to just accommodate that. And that's going to give me some of that additional reach out that you would have with the extendable basket or extendable bucket. And I'm not going to sacrifice safety, because if the additional 18 inches of the basket were still rated for 500 pounds, which they were, moving the entire bucket out, the 7.5 inches, is just going to give me that much more reach, and it won't sacrifice the load capacity. And then what that's going to do is I'm going to have a bolt hole out here, and I will fashion a permanent bracket to have a step and give me a permanent step 1 foot down from this surface, because I see no reason to have something fold back. It never gets that close to the ground anyway, and it's just not going to get in my way. So that's a modification we can make pretty quickly. In fact, why don't I set up and we'll just go ahead and we'll do that and see what it looks like with the basket moved outboard. I wanted to show you inside these panels. Got a fiberglass door that swings out, hydraulic reservoir, spin-on filter. These two are the battery trays, which hold 4 6-volt cells each with heavy cam followers. I don't know if you can see in there, but these battery trays are extremely heavy. And the hydraulic pump, I believe, that's either hydraulic. That's not the pump. That is the rotation actuator. The rear wheels are the drivers, and the front wheels just do steering. It's not a four-wheel drive type. And then on this side, we have another panel. This panel has the back side of the battery connections. It has a manual emergency actuator pump here, and all of the solenoid valves to do the different functions are on this area right here. And I know they were labeled. Well, maybe they're just labeled in the manual, but you can manually actuate these solenoids, and then by pumping the handle, you could bring the mask down if batteries die when it's in the up position, bring someone down from the top. There's the hydraulic pump and motor, proximity switches for the travel. And it's not apparent here, but the rotation of this is continuously. There is no stop. You can rotate it 360 degrees and keep on going round and round, and it must have hydraulic swivel connections for the drive motor, which is in the base, and for the steering cylinder, which is at the front end. We have cobble schlep style cable actuators. This one needs to be reattached. I need one link to get back to that metal bracket or get some screws in there. But no big deal. And it has a fiberglass shroud around the wheels and the base. So we're going to close that up. And this one is closed. Heavy unit, I think 7,500 pounds. It busted through the trailer three different places when we were unloading it. It found all the partially rotted boards and just crunched right through. Thankfully, this thing doesn't have much ground clearance because the front end solid steel bumpers were able to sit on the trailer deck, and we still had enough room to get my floor jack in amazingly and get the thing jacked up, get some steel plates under it, and got it offloaded.
Good as new. I just went ahead and replaced the whole board, sprung it in between the ends, and then this cap strip here just comes off and all the tail pieces come off, so he is good to go.
The guy that I bought the lift from had access to a pretty nice set of telehandlers, actually his choice of several, and we were able to get the forks pushed in just inboard of the wheels and orient the thing correctly in the building. Then he just basically lifted it up, brought it outside, and lifted it up high enough where I could drive the trailer underneath it. It was a little bit of a challenge to get the forks out because it had to be between the wheel arches and the front of the trailer initially, which about squashed my truck bumper down to the ground. But we were able to drive the lift back and get it more centered over the wheels, the axles of the trailer for the trip home. There are little washers that are spacers in between this here. They're not fastened because I know some of them have already fallen on the floor. I think they might just be painted in place. Now, the other thing is there's a little bit of a cant here. This line of holes is basically parallel to the bottom edge, but they travel uphill on this member. So I need to get a pry bar in here before I relieve those, take those last couple screws out. And before I move this, I'm going to make a mark in line on the frame where the hole is. Okay. Well, it's moving forward. It is not what I would call sliding freely. I need a bigger pry bar. Another inch to go. Just a hair too far. Needs to go back just a hair and then lift it up to where the bolt holes align. There we have it. A little bit of a forward extension. A little room now at the back. I can maybe make a rack that comes down to hold conduit as I'm working. And now I have an extra hole, can come down and support a step. First order of business for the lift is to get into this narrow area between the granite table and the buffer, past the air compressor. And you can see I've got my electrical panels and my air line. My air line goes up and branches out to a horizontal at this point at the first girt. And then I have a T where I can continue that on up. I'm going to take an air line up to the eave and taking a couple of conduits up to the eave, and then go overhead with 3-foot unistrut hangers to the other side of the building. And then I've got a sub panel, about a 90 amp sub panel that I'm going to put next to that walkway door, and that will be 3-phase capable. It's just going to be single phase initially, but I'll have 3 conductors plus neutral plus ground pulled through that conduit, and have compressed air also on that side of the building. Haven't really talked much about this little enclosed office space here in the corner of the building, built with plywood and 2x4 studs. They did have a door with strap hinges on this, and I believe at one point this was storage for files and saw bits and stuff like that. And what my son is doing is insulating it with rigid foam panels. I mean, we're not looking to put drywall or anything on this, because this was built up against the metal siding. It did have a circuit for a couple outlets and an overhead light at one time, but all we're looking to do is to get this insulated and basically airtight, and then we're going to condition this space by installing either a through-the-wall heat pump, like the kind that is in hotel rooms, or like a little discarded mini split, and we'll just run the the outdoor unit, the air, into the shop here. I mean, it's essentially outdoors anyway, nothing's enclosed, but then that'll create a conditioned environment in there for him to store furniture, case goods, a couple of couches, and basically we're just going to pack that thing full and keep it to where it doesn't get too cold, and obviously control the humidity for the summertime, and that'll free up some space in the house. So that's an ongoing project for him. And another reason why I need to run a circuit, you can see the remnants of the conduit which end about behind that board. Actually, that's where they come out. So I need to extend that power to where the new electrical panel will go, fed from overhead and the original service that I installed last year. All possible now thanks to the Lift-A-Loft. I did run one conduit up overhead, actually made it match the pitch of the ceiling, and came down in one of the grooves of the siding. And what is in that is the 2 strands of fiber optic taking internet from this building over to our house. And that was a sketchy, not very safe setup, because the ladder wasn't long enough to reach up there, and I had to make extensions for the ladder and lean it up against that beam overhead. So did all that without the Lift-A-Loft, and this is going to make it a lot better in the future. Another relatively minor issue I noticed is the carrier for the AeroTrack, I think, is put on the wrong side of this bracket. This thing, you don't want to make too tight a loop with these, and it would be better, in my opinion, if this was attaching on the outside. Plenty of room over here, so I'm going to reverse this bracket. I started to try to move the lift in between my compressor and the 4 foot by 4 foot granite inspection table, and it's just a little bit too tight, which unfortunately is going to require me to shift the table over maybe 8-10 inches or so to the right, which is a shame because I leveled this within a thousandths per foot with the Master Precision level, and it has stayed there for probably going on 2 years. So can't move the compressor anymore. Its outlet is basically coming right past my one upright beam here, and I don't want to encroach on this opening. There is going to be a roll-up door and a man door in this location, so let's move the inspection table and I'll just re-level it at another point. I'm going to put some 3/4 inch wood blocks under the corners to give me some additional height to get the pallet jack under there. I know what you're going to say. Wood is not the best surface for under something you want to keep level, but here's a trick. If you put a layer of membrane under there, this is like a flashing membrane, the concrete will not wick any water up into the wood. The wood will stay dry. It'll stay much more stable. And the wood will bridge all the little irregularities in the concrete for the leveling pads. Okay, inspection table is shifted over probably a good 10 inches, and that gives, actually, it was almost touching the turret initially, so that's more like a foot. That'll give me a comfortable amount of room to re-square this and bring it in just a little bit further so that I can reach my electrical connections up there. Well, the AeroTrack basically works like it should, with it reoriented to the outside of that bracket. That's more like where it's supposed to be. I've got this shoehorned in between my inspection table and the compressor. When I swing the basket out, I just missed my unistruts up there for the hanging the lights. Then I could move in a foot or so and I could be right up against the wall for working on that. So this is ready to go, ready for that electrical work to start. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's not a mill, it's not a lathe, but it's essential. It's part of the infrastructure of this building, and it'll get me steps toward getting it enclosed and get power where it needs to be, lights where it needs to be. A lot easier, quicker, and safer than what I was doing before this. So thanks again for watching and subscribing. Got some more machining projects lined up on the tool and cutter grinder, fixing the little centers for that. Got some projects on the K&T. Got the abrasive surface grinder to continue to put together. So a lot of stuff going on in amongst putting power over to the other side of the shop for that enclosed office space, and just for power and air closer to all the side where I'm doing all my machining right now. So thanks again for watching and subscribing. Till next time, as always, from Engineers Workshop, stay safe.